Hello and welcome again to our program. I thank you for joining, and I'm so glad that you could be here. I encourage you to please ask and tag your friends and family in this video so that they can watch. Also, I want to talk about an important issue here. As always with our program, sometimes we do ask, that you have your Bibles open, that we're going to talk about a lot of biblical issues. Well, today we are going to talk about a community issue that affects you and me. Virtually all of us, whether we're white, black, red, brown, it doesn't matter. All lives matter, but black lives especially matter in these day and times. So if you live here in Cincinnati, you are aware of some of the issues. You are aware of some of the circumstances plaguing our city. And even if you are abroad, you are also aware of some of the issues here in Cincinnati because it has made national media attention. And I'm talking about the relationships between pedestrians, the citizens of our community, with the law enforcement or police officers. Here recently we have had a very big issue with the shooting of a traffic stop. A guy was driving and a police officer pulled him over, and it ended up in the shooting of that driver, and the police officer saying that he was in fear for his life. There was a body cam that the police officer wore, and that video was not released until just recently. And because of that video, the police officer now has been indicted on murder charges, and he faces also a voluntary manslaughter. Just a few of the charges. So we want to talk about that issue and talk about that. The victim in this incident was Samuel Dubose, and he was driving. I encourage you to watch the video of the body cam from the police officer because it will give you some insight as to what I'm referring to. And a little bit more detailed than what the police officer account was, which is surprising, or maybe not. So, just so that you know, the officer was indicted. He had a bond hearing here just a few days ago, and I think it was just the other day. And his bond was set at $1 million for the aggravated murder, voluntary manslaughter of Samuel Dubose, which he posted bond, and now the police officer is out of jail. So these are the circumstances surrounding that. Let me say this, and I'm not sure if most of you are aware. First of all, he was a security police officer with the University of Cincinnati. Our university here, our college campus, employs security officers, police officers, to patrol and protect the campus. And they have worked out a sort of agreement with the city of Cincinnati to try to patrol the outskirts, or the perimeter of the campus and sort of surrounding areas because of the lack of bodies of police officers that we have in the city, to try to pick up the slack. Okay, so that's the first thing. This was a traffic stop that was being held by a college campus police officer, security officer, for a missing front license plate that should not have been pulled over and stopped in the first place. Secondly, if you watch the video, you'll see that, it escalated fairly quickly. And I have some issues with the escalation part, and some of you may agree with me and some of you may not. Two things. I understand about our rights and what we have and our rights as a human being and the Constitution. And we don't want anyone, violating our rights. We've gone through, so much in the 50s and 60s to try to gain those rights, and then we want to be protective of them. So now we are very outspoken when it comes to our rights, which is all well and fine. I get that. But if a police officer, please ma'am, please sir, listen closely. If a police officer simply asks you to step out of your car, put your hands up, stop, don't do this. If you feel that it infringes on your constitutional rights, make a mental log first, and then secondly, comply with what the police officer is asking you. Even if it offends you, goes against your rights, violates your constitutional rights. He is an officer of the law. I'm saying comply. Peacefully, calmly, silently comply to whatever his demand, whatever the demands are. Situation will not escalate, feelings will not get involved, things will not get misconstrued, and you will not wind up dead. Simple. Now, after you've complied, after you have, met the demands of the police officer, and you are gone about your merry way, the next step would be to contact a lawyer and sue. Sue the police, sue the county, take them to court. Your rights were violated. Your constitutional rights were violated. You have evidence of such, and you can sue them. Please, ma'am, please, sir. Sue them. Take them to court. You may or may not win your case, depending on how strongly your rights were violated. But guess what? You are alive and well to talk about it, to live another day, to go on, meet your family, have birthdays. No one's crying. We never have to make videos of this sort about you. So that's my take on that. If you watch the video of Mr. Dubose, I believe he did nothing wrong. Let me make that clear. Mr. Dubose did nothing wrong. However, there are some things that he could have done differently that may have suggested a different outcome. Number one, when the police officer asked him to take his seatbelt off and step out of the car, if he would have simply taken the seatbelt off and stepped out of the car, he might be alive today. Just a suggestion, not sure what have happened, but he might be alive today. The moral is comply, comply, comply. And then afterwards, then you sue for your infringement. You sue for violation of your civil rights, your lawful constitutional rights to do whatever it was you feel that was violated. That's my suggestion. Okay, so as we look further into this story with Mr. Dubose here in Cincinnati, we find that the report that was filed was backed up by two of his fellow police officers. Those two police officers collaborated that Mr. Dubose was dragging the police officer, and the police officer was in fear of his life, so therefore he fired one shot, which ultimately killed Mr. Dubose. Upon further investigation, we find that those two police officers that collaborated the officer's story also had a shady background. Listen to this. Those same two police officers in 2010 were facing charges similar. There was a lawsuit filed with the city of Cincinnati, implementing those two officers on negligence. The story goes, they were police officers monitoring the psychiatric ward here at our UC Medical Center. The UC Hospital used our UC campus police officers as extra added security. So they would monitor the hallways. Okay? They discover a mental health patient that's there, and his name is Bronson, I believe. And what happened is these officers, according to the lawsuit, these officers tased Mr. Bronson 3 times while he was forced to the ground, and other officers joined and forcefully held Mr. Bronson to the ground. After they subdued Mr. Bronson, who is a psychiatric patient, mind you, in the hospital, they strapped him to the bed using 5 straps. This is all according to the lawsuit. Well, Mr. Bronson, who happens to be a black man, stopped breathing, lost consciousness, was unresponsive after that. 3 days later, he died. Does that sound familiar to any of you? I mean, is that set of circumstances kind of ringing a bell with some other things that have happened here? And I'll get to that in a second. So they tased him 3 times. He stopped breathing, lost consciousness, was unresponsive. 3 days later, he died. The family sued the City of Cincinnati campus, our University of Cincinnati campus police officers, and the medical center. The Cincinnati campus, our University of Cincinnati campus, settled out of court or in court, whichever. They settled for $683,000. They settled the case. My suggestion is sue when your rights are violated. They sued, they won the case, $683,000. Their loved one died, so it's a small compensation. The officers in those complications, in those, communications, did not get charged with any criminal charges. The same two officers collaborated. This officer's report saying that he was dragged. I'm purposely not mentioning the officer's name because I don't want him to get any kind of airplay or time on this. So we have both of the officers' report said that Mr. Dubose dragged the officer and he fired one shot, which ultimately killed Mr. Dubose. Okay, so I don't know what it's going to take for us to understand that yelling and screaming and being belligerent and being negative, even though you're in the right, is going to make the outcome any better. The best way to fight is to fight the law with the law. If you feel your rights have been violated, sue. You have every right to sue. If you feel that the traffic stop was unmerited, unwarranted, comply with whatever the police officer is saying. Document the case. One step better or forward is to call 911 during the stop so that your call is recorded, the stop is recorded. Leave the 911 person on the phone while the stop is being implemented. So all of that is being recorded, and then sue them. Remain silent. You don't have to argue. You don't have to. You don't have the right to. You don't have to say none of that. They know your rights when they pulled you over. They would not have pulled you over if they knew you were going to sue. So that's my suggestion, is to sue them. So earlier I was telling you about kind of the similarities. We have another national incident that happened. Traffic stop. You all are aware of Sandra Bland, and hers were similar to Samuel Dubose. She was stopped, traffic stopped, and then 3 days later she died. On that video, the officer is recorded saying, "I will light you up," and I quote, meaning he's going to tase her. In the lawsuit filed in Cincinnati, the two officers tased Mr. Bronson 3 times. And then after that, he was unresponsive. And then 3 days later, he died. My suggestion, I'm not saying this is what happened, could be that officer actually did tase Sandra. Tased her more than once. She went unresponsive, and 3 days later, she died. All of that could have been avoided if she would have just simply got out of the car. When he asked, "Take your seatbelt off, drop your cigarette, please get out of the car," she could have precisely gotten out of the car. Yes, it was a bogus stop. Yes, it was an infringement on her rights. Gotten out of the car, complied, got her ticket. The next day, filed a lawsuit and sued for infringements of rights. And we would be talking about a whole totally different issue. As with the family of Bronson, they sued. Did you hear that? They sued the police department of our campus, University of Cincinnati Police Campus, and they won. They got $683,000. I don't know how I can make it more plain, more advantageous than that. If we would start suing them for every infraction or violation of our rights that they impose, the foolishness would stop. Because they would know anything out of order, they're going to get sued. Whether we win or lose is not the factor. The fact remains is we will take you to court. We will sue for our rights. The law states if there's an infraction, you must take them to court and be tried of their peers. And I believe the more we take them to court, the more we sue, how little, how small, or how great, doesn't matter. The more we sue, the more this will change. They will think twice before they stop you for a frivolous stop. They will make sure that they have evidence, that they have a rightful meaning to pull you over and to cease and assist you in whatever you're doing, because they know that you are going to sue. Simple outcome. Problem. Many of our black folks, black people, have been oppressed for so long, and we want to make our voice known. Every infraction, we want to be boisterous and say they were quiet in the 50s and 60s, and they had to accept things because that was the time. And we're living in 2015, and we don't have to accept it anymore. We don't have that same slave mentality as yes sir, no sir. We don't have the same mentality as they did in the 50s and 60s. We now have rights and abilities, and we're going to defend our rights and abilities. All that is all well and fine, but you are defending them inadequately. Nothing is being accomplished. Nothing is being done. The police is still killing and shooting us one by one. And together, if we don't do something collectively as a body of people, it's not going to change. Yelling and screaming about you are violating my rights is not going to change the outcome. What will change the outcome is you comply, you show them that, listen, we're all not loud and boisterous. We all have some of us have dignity. Some of us do have understanding of the law. Some of us do have a higher learning education. And we are willing to wait on our coins. Meaning, if it takes 6 months, a year, for the lawsuit process to go forth, and at the end of that is the benefit of we sue you and we receive our coins, I'm happy with that. Instant gratification of me telling you off, of you violating my rights, is not cutting it. We have to do something that's going to make a long-lasting impression. And in order to do that, I say, is to sue them. Comply. They ask you to get out the car. Please, ma'am, just simply get out of the car. Place your hands behind your back. Whatever they ask, comply. It may be wrong. You will receive due process. If you do not, that is an infringement. You have the right to sue. Plain and simple. So, that's my thought for the issue. I'm a little bit heated about it, but I want you to please take note, because I'm tired of our people being killed and shot for no reason. If you are wielding a gun, a weapon of any sort at a police officer, they are going to shoot you. Period. I don't understand that. It is true. We do have the right to bear arms. I did see a video a couple days ago with, they did a comparison, a sort of a test, if you will. They had a white guy walk down the street carrying an AK-47 on his shoulder, was carrying the gun. Nothing special. The person behind him was videotaping, and he was walking. A police officer stopped up to him, apprehended him, asked him, what was he doing, what is his ID, didn't make a big scene about it, asked him where was he going. He said, whatever, blase, blase. The police officer looked at the gun, inspected it, gave the gun back to the guy, and the guy went on his merry way. Same street, same type of day. Very next day, they put a black guy with the same gun walking down the street. That guy was detained, pulled over. The police jumped out of their car with weapons drawn, called for backup, asked him to lay down on the ground, and proceeded to treat him as if he was a terrorist, violating his obvious rights. And so I understand that, yes, your rights are going to be violated. Yes, they are. What I'm saying is comply. Make the law work for you. Sue them. Please, I cannot say that enough. If more of us would take them to court and sue, the foolishness would stop. I guarantee you. If we would sue them, they would be afraid that we're going to sue the police department. They don't have any money already. They will settle out of court. They will get tired of the lawsuits. They will put an end to it. It will stop. It will take some time, but it will stop. Please, ma'am, please, sir. So that's my rant. If you have any questions, you want to talk about anything that I've said, you're welcome to email us at atpministries@aol.com. Once again, that's atpministries@aol.com. You can also send us a donation if you would like to support our ministry, if you would like to support any of our causes or what we're doing. You can send us a donation. Make your donations out to ATP Ministries, and that's P.O. Box 37743, Cincinnati, Ohio 45222. Once again, that's ATP Ministries, P.O. Box Cincinnati, Ohio 45222. Once again, so we welcome all of your feedback, your support. We thank you once again for watching and listening and tuning in with us. I only have one thing to say on this note. Please, please, ma'am, please, sir, let's comply, save a life, live to fight another day, and sue them for your infringements and your infractions on your behalf of your constitutional rights. Let's be good, take care of each other and ourselves. I'm praying for you.